All right, so this is the lab, chemical and physical properties, background, procedure, and cleanup. The background is pretty extensive on this, and it's a good way for you to study for the test. It's got good stuff in there. And coming down to the materials that you'll see, this is an ambitious lab. This was intense. So you're going to have 12 test tubes in your basket. A stirring rod is the glass thing that we've used in the past. Paper towel to wipe in between. You will have a magnet tomorrow. I just think they're in my garage at this point. A test tube rack, blue at the end. A candle, which is in with your spot plate. Oh. Candle. A scoopula. This is a new tool for us. This is a scoopula. We use it to transfer solid materials from one place to another. Scratch paper, which is on the end. A pipette, which we have used in the past. Just a little review. You're going to put it in the liquid, squeeze. As it's still in the liquid, you're going to let go and it will bring liquid up with it. Magnifying glass, 50 milliliter beaker of water, 50 milliliter beaker of vinegar, 5 milliliter graduated cylinder, a lighter. To use this, you press this and you pull on that. If it doesn't go in the first run, you can always do it again, but again, it's a push and a pull. There you go. A lighter, a spot plate. This is a spot plate. It's also called a microwell, so I don't know, if you've ever seen it before, what you've called it. And a flame loop. This is a flame loop. And then finally some iodine. So that is all the materials that we're going to use. We're going to use very little of your samples, just half a pea size for each sample that we're going to do. You have sand, you have iron filings, you have sulfur, you have baking soda, whoa, sugar, and cornstarch. So to do this lab, we're going to examine each of the samples. We're going to record the color, the odor, and the relative particle size. And so when we talk about the samples, these are what we're talking about. As you can see, my paper is kind of marked up, but different samples of matter in small labeled plastic cups. It's these 6 things that are your samples. You're not going to be like sniffing in and doing all that with those liquid stuff. So you're going to look at it. In order to look at it with a magnifying glass, you would take your scratch paper, and then you're going to take your scoopula, and you're going to literally, can you see that?
Yep.
Grab that much. I'm not even joking. Like there's going to be nothing there. And then you're going to put that down, and now on the procedure it says this is where double dipping is not wanted. Every time I touch a sample, I'm going to wipe off my instrument, and then I'm going to take my magnifying glass. Now I even have goggles on tonight because I'm working with some sulfur, so don't complain when you come to class. And then you can just see, if you look down through the magnifying glass on the paper, you'll be able to see the little crystals of it, and you can look at the shape and size. And then it's a very, very small sample. You're totally fine to put it in the sink. Except for the sand. Don't put sand in my sink. It's late. All right, so we looked at color, odor, relative particle size using the magnifying glass on the data table. You'll be getting a magnifying glass. With a magnet, we're going to test each sample for magnetic properties. Again, we're going to take just a little bit. This time I'll take some baking soda and just a tad. So again, look at how much I'm taking, just not much. So I'm going to place it on my piece of scratch paper. I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to wipe it off to make sure that I'm getting it wiped off in between. And then when I have the magnet, I'm going to stick the magnet under the paper and I'm going to move that around and see if it moves my substance around. I'm going to find a better place for you to trash the stuff tomorrow. Don't put it in my sink, I've decided. All right. Test the solubility in water of each of the sample by adding 5 milliliters in a graduated cylinder of water into the test tube. So I have 6 samples. I'm going to take my test tube rack. I'm going to take 6 of the test tubes out, and I'm going to line them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I'm going to take my graduated cylinder. Now, I did not mark these, but the way I can find out which one I've got is I could use my technique of wafting. And so one is vinegar and one is water, and one's going to smell awful. Okay, and now let's test this one. Okay. Definitely this one smells like pickles. Are you laughing at me? Okay, so I'm going to measure out. I'm not going to actually do this because I don't want to wash this. I want this to be ready for tomorrow. So I'm going to measure up my 5 milliliters of water and my 5 and then I'm going to put 5 in each of these, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so each time measuring, putting 5 in. All right, that was great. So I did that with water. And then I'm going to take a sample of each of these and put them in. And again, I can't stress to you, what you have in front of you is enough to last through 6th hour. So 3 classes need to get through this, and there is more than plenty to let that happen. So you're going to take just a tiny little bit, and you're going to pour 1 in here, and then you're going to put like sand in here, sugar, whatever. Again, wiping in between each one. All right, so I'm testing. Now I'm going to flick the test tube after the water is in here and my sample is in here. I'm going to just kind of flick it like this. Now don't be so crazy that you've got stuff going everywhere. If you spill, that's on you, not my lab. And you're just going to kind of flick it. If you can't get it to dissolve in there, you're going to want to take a test or a stirring rod and get your stirring rod in there. And again, before you would go on to the next test tube, you're going to wipe off your stirring rod and go again. All right? And then, what's next? Test the sample in vinegar by adding, you're going to do the same thing. All right, so we're going to take these, and you're going to take these test tubes that have the water and the sample in it, and you're going to walk it over to the center table. And at the center table, there's going to be a bin that says use test tubes, and you're just going to place them gently in my bin that says use test tubes. And then we're going to come back, and we're going to grab the next 6 test tubes. We're going to take them out of there. We're going to line them up again. And this time, instead of using water, we're going to use the vinegar. And so I smell, waft, make sure that it's my vinegar. Don't worry about cleaning this out in between. It'll be okay. Measure 5, put in here. Measure 5, put in here. Each one is going to get 5. And then you're going to put those back over there. And then again, you're going to take a very small sample. Very tiny. Very tiny. And so this is going to... Did you see that?
Yeah,
That's
dropped.
Cool. No, it jumped.
I did.
You're going to put 5 in here, and then I'm going to grab my different samples. So 6 samples, 6 test tubes, 6 different things. Wiping off my scoopula in between each time. All right. If it can't, you flick, flick, flick so that you get it to mix up together. If that's not going to work out for you, you're going to stir, 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 and you're going to wipe in between each one again. Then the next one is test the sample in iodine by adding a small amount to a spot plate. Okay, when you're done with these, again, these are dirty. You're going to take them and you're going to bring them to my center table. And you're going to put them inside the bin that will be here tomorrow, labeled test tubes, dirty test tubes. Then come back to your station and you're going to take out your spot plate. And you're going to put just a very tiny piece of each of these in each well. Like that's enough. And you're going to have to keep track of what you're doing. So I don't know if you want to get a piece of paper and put it underneath and label like baking soda, sand, iron, salt, blah, blah, blah. But you're going to have to keep track of that somehow. Again, don't put that in my sink tomorrow. All right, and then you're going to take just a little bit, 1 little drop of iodine, and you're going to add 1 little drop like that to each of the samples that are in your spot plate. And you're going to see if there's a reaction with that. All right, test the flammability of each substance. This is a fun one. All right, so we're going to take this. And you're going to find your water. Wafting, sorry. Okay. And you're going to wet your loop just a little bit. And then you're going to put it in. I shouldn't use that one. Okay, whatever. And then you're gonna light your candle. And then you're gonna put your substance in. I'm not gonna do this because I don't wanna give it away, but you're gonna light your substance inside the candle, and that's the way you're gonna test your flammability. And then again, of course, you're always washing your materials or your tools in between, and then you'd put it back in water, and then you'd put it back in your substance again. All right, and then what else? Flammability, hold it, okay? Second and fourth hours, I just want you to look as good as you did when you came in, because it took Ty and I pretty good amount of time to get this set up for you tonight. Sixth hour, of course, I will help you clean up stuff and get this all put away tomorrow. And so there's your cleanup, and there's the lab. It's a big one, but it's a fun one, and we get to see a lot of things happen. So thanks, guys. I hope you watched, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.